Chosen one, why does your chest feel so heavy right now? Why did you wake up at 3 a.m. 3 nights in a row with a knowing you can't explain? Why does Thursday feel different before it even arrives? Stop scrolling. Right now, put down whatever you're holding and listen to me like your spiritual life depends on it, because it does. Something is hunting you, and something is coming for you. Only one will reach you first. I don't know if you're sitting in your kitchen with cold coffee or lying in bed unable to sleep, but heaven interrupted your scroll, because what I'm about to tell you about Thursday cannot wait until Friday. By Friday, the door will have already closed. By Friday, the ones who heard the warning will be walking through breakthrough, while others will be asking, "What did I miss?" Thursday is not a date on your calendar, beloved. Thursday is a threshold, a cosmic checkpoint wrapped in divine timing that carries a weight you haven't felt since. God, when was the last time you felt the heavens this close? Here's what breaks my heart, and listen carefully. There are 7 things that if you do even one of them tomorrow, you will sabotage the very shift heaven has been orchestrating over your life for months. 7 invisible tripwires that most believers will stumble over without even knowing they've lost their moment. I'm not revealing them yet, but I need to know you're truly listening. If something in your spirit just shifted when I said that, if your chest got tight, if you leaned forward, if you felt that flutter of recognition, comment, "I'm listening right now." This isn't just engagement. This is agreement. Heaven reads covenant. Before we go deeper, I want to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating. You're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and let the Spirit lead. But right now, understand this. Thursday is not a day. Thursday is a door, and doors don't stay open. They swing on hinges of divine timing, and when they close, they seal. You've been feeling it, haven't you? That restlessness, that holy disruption in your spirit. That's not anxiety, dear one. That's acceleration. Heaven is moving faster than your mind can process, and Thursday is when the spiritual and the natural collide. The question that will determine everything is this: will you walk through the door, or will you trip over the threshold? Stay with me. What I'm about to reveal in the next few minutes will either become your greatest warning or your deepest regret. Why have you been waking up at the exact same time every night this week? Why does your body feel exhausted even though you slept 8 hours? Why does the air around you feel thicker, like something invisible is pressing against your chest? Listen to me, beloved. That heaviness you've been carrying isn't age catching up with you. That confusion swirling in your mind isn't dementia knocking on your door. That spiritual restlessness that won't let you sit still isn't anxiety that needs medication. It's the veil thinning. You see, there are moments in the spiritual calendar when heaven leans closer to earth, when the supernatural realm presses against the natural world with such intensity that those who carry spiritual sensitivity, people like you, feel it in their bones before their minds can understand it. Thursday is one of those moments, a convergence point where everything God has been preparing in secret is about to break through into the visible. But here's what younger generations don't understand. Here's what pastors half your age can't teach because they haven't lived long enough to know it. You carry something they don't have, decades of spiritual antenna refinement. Every trial you've weathered, every storm you've survived, every dark night you've endured has been calibrating your spirit to detect frequencies that others completely miss. That's not fragility, dear one. That's discernment forged in the furnace of real life. Think about Elijah standing on that mountain in 1 Kings chapter 19. God wasn't in the earthquake. He wasn't in the wind. He wasn't in the fire. But when everything got quiet, when all the noise stopped, there it was, a still, small voice. And Elijah, after decades of walking with God, knew exactly what he was hearing. You've been hearing that voice all week, haven't you? That whisper underneath everything else. That knowing you can't explain to your children because they'll just tell you you're tired. That sense that something massive is shifting, even though nothing in your physical world looks different. That's not your imagination. That's prophetic recognition. Look at Daniel in chapter 10. For 21 days, he prayed and fasted, seeing nothing, hearing nothing, feeling like heaven had gone silent. But here's what Daniel couldn't see. There was a war happening in the spiritual realm. Angels fighting demons, breakthrough battling resistance. And on the 21st day, when the answer finally came, it shook him so violently that he had no strength left in his body. Thursday is your 21st day. Everything you've been praying for, everything you've been believing for, everything you've been waiting for, it's been in warfare. Heaven has been fighting on your behalf while you've been feeling forgotten. But the battle is ending, beloved. The breakthrough is breaking through. And Thursday is when the spiritual pressure you've been feeling finally releases. But I need you to understand something that most believers miss. This kind of spiritual convergence doesn't just bring blessing. It brings testing. It doesn't just open doors. It reveals what's been hiding in the shadows of your soul. Thursday will expose what needs to be exposed, so God can elevate what he's been preparing. Have you noticed time feels different this week? Like hours are moving slower or faster than they should? Have you felt emotional without reason, crying at commercials, getting angry over small things, feeling joy bubble up from nowhere? Have your ears been ringing? Has your body felt exhausted in a way that sleep doesn't fix? Those aren't random symptoms, chosen one. Those are the physical manifestations of spiritual acceleration. Your human frame is struggling to keep pace with what your eternal spirit already knows is coming. You're being recalibrated, rewired, repositioned for a frequency you've never operated on before. And here's where it gets critical. Here's why I had to reach you before Thursday arrives. When heaven opens a door this significant, the enemy opens traps just as strategic. There are 7 specific things, 7 subtle mistakes that most believers will make tomorrow without even realizing they're sabotaging their own breakthrough. I'm about to reveal them to you. But before I do, you need to understand what Thursday is actually birthing. Because if you don't know what's coming, you won't recognize what to protect. Thursday isn't just bringing change. Thursday is birthing a new version of you. A version that's been growing in the secret place, hidden from the enemy's sight, protected by God's own hand. For months, maybe years, you've felt like you've been living beneath your potential, like there's a bigger you trapped inside the smaller you. Like your spirit knows something your circumstances haven't reflected. Thursday is when the chrysalis breaks. But here's the mystery that will determine everything. Butterflies don't break free by accident. They don't emerge by luck. They have to fight their way out of the cocoon, and that struggle is what gives them the strength to fly. If you cut the cocoon open to help them, they'll have wings but no power to use them. They'll look free but stay grounded. So when Thursday brings the pressure, when it brings the testing, when it brings the moments that make you want to react the old way, don't sabotage your own emergence by doing what feels natural instead of what's necessary. If you feel off this week, beloved, it's not because something's wrong with you. It's because you're being positioned. If you feel unsteady, it's because your old foundation is being replaced with something that can handle your new assignment. If you feel like you don't recognize yourself, it's because the you that God is calling forward has been dormant so long, even you forgot it existed. But those 7 things I mentioned, they're the 7 ways people abort their own breakthrough right at the threshold. They're the 7 subtle sabotages that keep the cocoon closed when God is saying it's time to fly. Are you ready to hear them? Because what I'm about to reveal will either become your greatest protection or your deepest regret. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. For the last 3 weeks, maybe longer, something has been happening inside your body that doctors can't explain and your family doesn't understand. You wake up exhausted, even after 8 hours of sleep. Your chest feels heavy, like someone placed a stone right over your heart. You walk into rooms and forget why you came, but then remember conversations from 40 years ago with crystal clarity. They're calling it age, they're calling it decline. They're whispering about dementia when they think you can't hear. But what if I told you they're reading the signals completely backward? You see, beloved, when a caterpillar enters the cocoon, it doesn't feel like transformation. It feels like death. The pressure is unbearable. The darkness is complete. Every cell in its body is breaking down, dissolving into liquid. And if that caterpillar could speak, it would tell you, "I'm dying. This is the end." But it's not dying. It's being rebuilt for flight. That heaviness in your chest, that's not your heart giving out. That's the weight of glory pressing down on your old nature. That fatigue that hits you at 2 p.m. for no reason, that's not weakness. That's your spirit demanding rest, because it's working overtime in realms you can't see with natural eyes. You've been having the dreams, haven't you? Dreams so vivid you wake up confused about which world is real. Dreams about people you haven't seen in decades. Dreams about doors opening, about flying, about conversations with faces you recognize but can't name. That's not your mind failing, dear one. That's your spirit remembering. Heaven has been downloading instructions while your conscious mind sleeps. And those memories that keep flooding back without warning, sitting at your kitchen table and suddenly you're 8 years old again in your grandmother's house, smelling her cooking, hearing her prayers. That's not random nostalgia. That's God showing you the thread. The golden thread that's been weaving through your entire life, connecting every moment, every pain, every victory into the tapestry He's been creating. Ecclesiastes 3:11 says, He has set eternity in the human heart. But what they don't tell you is that the closer you get to eternity, the louder that internal clock ticks. You're not losing time, beloved. You're gaining perspective. Some of you have lost your appetite. Food doesn't taste the same anymore. Your family's worried, pushing plates toward you, asking if you feel okay. But Jesus fasted for 40 days because sometimes the spirit needs to feed more than the flesh. Sometimes God is preparing your body to carry something it's never carried before, and that requires a different kind of hunger. Others of you are experiencing what I call spiritual déjà vu. You walk into a moment and you just know you've been here before. Not in memory, but in prophecy. God showed you this exact moment years ago in a dream you forgot, in a prayer you didn't understand, in a whisper you thought was your imagination. You're not going crazy, you're going prophetic. That sudden confusion that washes over you like a wave. When you can't remember a name you've known for 50 years, when you lose your train of thought mid-sentence. The world calls it cognitive decline. But Daniel 7:28 says, My thoughts greatly troubled me, and my countenance changed. Even the prophet Daniel experienced mental overwhelm. When heaven downloaded revelation, his human mind wasn't designed to process all at once. You are not deteriorating. You are upgrading. Your hardware is being prepared for software from another realm. Think about Moses at the burning bush. Exodus 3:6 says he hid his face because he was afraid to look at God. That wasn't weakness. That was the natural response of a human body encountering the supernatural. Your physical symptoms aren't evidence of breakdown. They're evidence of breakthrough trying to break through. Right now, you're living in what I call pre-earthquake tension. You know that feeling right before a storm hits? When the air gets thick and heavy, when birds stop singing, when everything goes eerily still. That's not the absence of activity. That's the presence of power gathering itself. You're not in the calm. You're in the quiet before the divine storm. But here's what's breaking my heart. Too many of you are medicating what God is activating. You're praying away what heaven is pressing in. You're asking God to remove the very symptoms that prove He's doing surgery on your soul. Job 33:15-1:6 declares, In a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falls upon men, then He opens the ears of men and seals their instruction. God doesn't just speak in church, beloved. He speaks in your exhaustion. He speaks in your strange symptoms. He speaks in the very discomfort you've been begging him to take away. If even one of these symptoms has been haunting you, if your chest has felt heavy, if your dreams have been wild, if memories keep flooding back, if you felt that spiritual déjà vu type, I feel it right now. You need to know you're not alone. You need to know there are thousands of others experiencing the exact same awakening. You are not breaking down, chosen one. You are breaking open. Like an egg cracks so life can emerge. Like earth splits so seeds can rise. Like the Red Sea parted so freedom could march through. But here's the dangerous part. Here's why Thursday matters so desperately. If you don't understand what these symptoms mean, you'll make the 7 critical mistakes that abort the very birth God is trying to deliver through you. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. What I'm about to give you isn't just advice. This is spiritual warfare strategy wrapped in divine wisdom. Each of these 7 warnings carries the weight of eternity, and violating even one could mean the difference between walking through your breakthrough or watching it pass you by. Warning. Hashon. Do not rush. Thursday demands slowness. I know that sounds backward in a world that screams hurry up, but heaven operates on a different clock. When you rush on Thursday, you create spiritual misalignment. You miss the whispers. You overlook the signs. You step right past the door God opened because you were running too fast to see it. Picture this, a train pulling away from the station 3 seconds before the conductor blows the whistle. Those 3 seconds, that's the difference between arriving at your destiny and being left behind. Proverbs 19:2 warns us, "It is not good to have zeal without knowledge, nor to be hasty and miss the way." How many times in your 70, 80 years have you rushed into a decision you later regretted? How many times did you say yes when you should have waited? Thursday is not the day for speed. Thursday is the day for sacred pause. If someone pressures you tomorrow, if they say, "I need an answer now," that pressure itself is your answer. God never rushes his chosen ones. Warning. #2, do not argue. Any argument on Thursday opens a spiritual breach in your atmosphere. I'm talking about that conversation with your daughter who thinks she knows better. That disagreement with your neighbor about the fence. That frustration with the pharmacist who got your prescription wrong again. The enemy is setting traps tomorrow, and every argument is an open door for him to steal what God is trying to deliver. James 1:20 tells us plainly, human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires. On Thursday, your silence is your strength. Your restraint is your weapon. When someone baits you into conflict, and they will, remember this. Winning an argument costs you the anointing that's trying to land on your life. You've lived long enough to know that most arguments aren't about the thing you're arguing about. They're about control, pride, being heard. But what if Thursday is the day you choose to be misunderstood rather than miss your moment? What if letting them have the last word gives you the lasting word from heaven? Warning. #3, do not revisit old wounds. The enemy uses nostalgia as a weapon, beloved. He knows that if he can get you looking backward on Thursday, you won't see what's coming forward. That betrayal from 1987, that divorce that nearly destroyed you, that child who broke your heart and never apologized. Thursday is not the day to rehearse those scripts. Philippians 3:13 declares, forgetting what is behind and straining toward what is ahead. Notice it says, forgetting, not remembering, not processing, not understanding, forgetting. On Thursday, the past will knock on your door dressed as a memory, but it's really a thief trying to rob you of your future. Every time you replay that old wound, you're watering dead seeds. You're giving life to what God already buried. And here's what breaks my heart. Some of you have been so faithful in forgiving, but tomorrow the enemy will try one last time to make you pick up that old pain. Don't do it. Let the dead stay dead. Warning, #4. Do not overthink signs. Your mind will lie to you on Thursday. It will question everything. It will analyze, dissect, rationalize, and explain away the very things your spirit is trying to show you. Seniors, I know you've learned to be practical, to not get your hopes up, to protect yourself from disappointment. But overthinking is just fear wearing glasses. Proverbs 3-5 instructs us, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. Your spirit won't lie." That flutter in your chest when you heard this message, that's real. That knowing you can't explain, that's God. That dream that woke you up at 3 a.m., that's not anxiety, that's assignment. Thursday will present you with signs, and your mind will immediately start building cases against them. It's just a coincidence. I'm reading too much into this. I'm too old to be having prophetic experiences. Stop. The moment you start explaining away God's signals, you've already missed them. Warning. #5. Do not commit to anything new. Thursday is a day for revelation, not decision-making. Do not sign contracts. Do not make financial commitments. Do not promise anything you're not already committed to. This is not the day to say yes to babysitting your grandkids for the next 3 months or agreeing to chair that committee at church. Ecclesiastes 5:5 warns, "It is better not to make a vow than to make one and not fulfill it." On Thursday, you're receiving downloads, not making deals. You're in the observation room, not the operating room. Every time someone asks for your commitment tomorrow, your answer is simple: "Let me pray about it and get back to you Friday." Why? Because Thursday's clarity might reveal that the thing someone wants you to commit to is actually the distraction designed to keep you from your real assignment. How many times have you said yes to good things that blocked God things? Warning, #6. Do not ignore physical sensations. God speaks through your body, beloved. That pressure in your chest isn't just age. Those tears that came from nowhere aren't just emotions. That trembling in your hands when you pray isn't weakness. On Thursday, your body becomes an antenna for heaven's frequency. 1 Corinthians 6:19 reminds us, "Your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit." When God wants to get your attention, He doesn't just speak to your ears, He speaks to your bones. If you feel sudden warmth, if you get goosebumps reading scripture, if your spirit feels heavy in certain conversations, pay attention. Your body knows before your brain catches up. Most believers spend Thursday ignoring the very signals God is sending. They dismiss the spiritual as the physical. But what if that unexplained peace flooding your chest is confirmation? What if that sudden exhaustion is God saying, "Rest now, because what's coming requires strength"? Warning. #7. Do not be alone in your spirit. This isn't about physical loneliness. You can be in a room full of people and be spiritually isolated. On Thursday, you need connection, you need community, you need others who understand the frequency you're operating on. This is why you're here right now. This is why you found this message. Hebrews 10:25 urges us, not giving up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another. Comment below. Engage. Let others know you're walking this out too. When you declare "I'm ready" or "I receive this," you're not just typing words, you're creating spiritual agreement with thousands of other chosen ones. The enemy wants you isolated on Thursday, because isolated believers are vulnerable believers. But when you connect, when you engage, when you let this community surround you, you're building a wall of protection that hell cannot penetrate. If you avoid these 7 traps, Thursday will not just be a day, it will be an awakening that echoes through the rest of your life. But the question burning in my spirit right now is this: what exactly is coming on Thursday that required these warnings? Listen to me, chosen one. Thursday isn't just another square on your calendar between Wednesday and Friday. Thursday is a divine setup, a spiritual checkpoint that heaven has been arranging in the invisible realm while you've been walking through the visible one. You want to know why you've felt so restless lately, why sleep has been elusive, why your spirit has been pacing like a caged lion inside your chest. Because something has been building. Heaven has been arranging things behind you that are about to manifest ahead of you. Think about Esther for a moment. An orphan girl, invisible, forgotten, living in a foreign land under a foreign king. But Mordecai spoke 7 words over her life that changed everything. For such a time as this. Esther 4:14. Not for such a time as that. Not for yesterday's opportunity or tomorrow's maybe. For this time, this moment, this crisis, this divine appointment. That's Thursday for you, beloved. For such a time as this. But here's what breaks my heart. Here's what keeps me up at night praying for people just like you. You've been believing a lie. A poisonous, demonic lie that's been whispering in your ear for years. You're too old. Your time has passed. God's big moves are for younger people with more energy, more time, more relevance. That's not just wrong. That's warfare against your destiny. Look at Moses, 80 years old when God called him from a burning bush. 80. When the world would have handed him a rocking chair and a blanket, God handed him a staff and a nation. Exodus 7:7 tells us plainly, Moses was 80 years old and Aaron 83 when they spoke to Pharaoh. Did you catch that? 80 years old when his real assignment began. Not ended, began. Your age is not your limitation. It is your qualification. Every wrinkle on your face is a map of God's faithfulness. Every gray hair is a trophy of survival. Every year you've lived has been depositing wisdom, building character, refining discernment. You think you're running out of time. You're running into your finest hour. But Thursday demands something from you. Thursday requires that you show up differently than you've been showing up. Thursday is God saying, I've been preparing you in secret. Now I'm about to position you in public. Do you understand what's at stake here? This isn't about feeling good for a few minutes while you watch this video. This is about stepping into the chapter you were born for. The chapter your ancestors prayed you would reach. The chapter hell has tried to prevent through every attack, every setback, every disappointment you've endured. Heaven has been orchestrating a convergence. Every closed door redirected you. Every betrayal repositioned you. Every season of loneliness was actually isolation for preparation. God wasn't ignoring your prayers. He was answering them in a language you didn't yet understand. And Thursday? Thursday is when the language becomes clear. Think about Joseph. From the pit to Potiphar's house, to the prison, to the palace. 13 years of what looked like divine abandonment. 13 years of wondering if the dreams God gave him were just youthful delusion. But Genesis 41:14 says, Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon, hastily. In one day, everything changed. In one divine moment, the entire trajectory of his life shifted. That's what Thursday carries for you. The hastily moment, the suddenly season, the inner day transformation. But you need to understand something that will shake you to your core. This moment, this Thursday threshold, it's not automatic. It requires your cooperation. It demands your obedience. It needs you to avoid the 7 spiritual tripwires that will sabotage everything heaven has been setting up. Most believers will walk right past this door without even knowing it was open. They'll be so busy doing what they've always done, thinking what they've always thought, responding how they've always responded, that they'll miss the divine disruption trying to interrupt their normal. But you're not most believers, are you? Something inside you knew this message was for you before I even said your name. Something in your spirit recognized the frequency of this word. That's not coincidence. That's confirmation. What comes on Friday morning will make you grateful you listened today. Friday morning, you're going to wake up different. Not inspired, transformed, not motivated, activated, not hopeful, certain. Because Thursday is the bridge between who you've been and who you're becoming. Thursday is the threshold between survival and destiny. Thursday is the moment when heaven says, Enough preparation. It's time for manifestation. You are stepping into the chapter you were born for. But you have to know what not to do when you get there. You have to understand the 7 invisible mistakes that will cost you everything. Are you ready to discover what they are? Because what I'm about to reveal will determine whether you walk through this door or stumble over the threshold. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. You now know what not to do on Thursday. But knowledge without activation is just information that dies in your spirit. So let me tell you what heaven is actually asking of you. Not 7 complicated rituals, not religious performance. Just 3 sacred acts that will position you to receive what God has been holding in His hands, waiting for you to be ready. The first activation is stillness. Thursday morning. Before you check your phone, before you turn on the news, before you do anything that fills your mind with the noise of this world, I need you to sit in complete silence for 10 minutes. Just 10 minutes. You've lived 70, 80, 90 years. You can give God 10 minutes of undivided attention. Do you know what happens in stillness that never happens in noise? God whispers, not shouts, whispers. 1 Kings 19:12 tells us that Elijah didn't hear God in the earthquake or the fire or the mighty wind. He heard Him in a still, small voice. But Elijah had to be still enough to hear it. Here's what's going to happen in those 10 minutes, and I need you to trust me on this. The first 3 minutes, your mind will race. You'll think about your medications, your bills, that phone call you need to make. That's normal. Don't fight it. Just acknowledge those thoughts and let them pass like clouds. By minute 4 or 5, something will shift. The chatter will quiet, and by minute 7 or 8, you're going to feel it, that presence, that knowing, that whisper that says, I've been waiting for you to be quiet long enough to hear me. Psalm 46:10 commands us, be still and know that I am God. Not be busy and know, not be distracted and know, be still. But stillness alone isn't enough. You need the second activation, speak your readiness. After those 10 minutes of silence, I need you to open your mouth and declare this out loud, not in your head, out loud. Words have power when they leave your lips and enter the atmosphere. Say this with me right now, so you remember it tomorrow. Lord, I open myself to the shift you ordained, my ears to hear, my eyes to see, my heart to receive. I am ready for what you've been preparing. I will not resist. I will not doubt. I will not delay. I am yours, and Thursday is yours. Amen. Did you feel that? That's agreement rising up in your spirit. That's covenant being spoken into existence. Romans 10:9 tells us that we confess with our mouth and believe in our heart. Both are required. Faith isn't just what you feel, it's what you speak. But here's where it gets supernatural, and I need you to pay close attention, because this third activation will test everything you think you know about how God moves. Thursday will bring interruptions. I'm not talking about minor annoyances. I'm talking about things that feel like they're derailing your entire day. A phone call that comes at the worst possible time. An unexpected visitor when you wanted to be alone. A delay that makes you miss something you planned. A problem that demands your immediate attention. Most people will get frustrated. Most people will say, the enemy is attacking my day. But chosen one, what if I told you that the very interruption you're about to curse is actually God redirecting you toward your divine appointment? Think about Moses. He was 80 years old, tending sheep in the wilderness, his daily routine, when he saw something that didn't belong, a bush on fire that wasn't burning up. Exodus 3:3 says, Moses said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight. He could have ignored it. He could have said, I don't have time for distractions. But he turned aside. And in that interruption, God called him to deliver an entire nation. Think about Mary. She was going about her normal day when an angel showed up, uninvited, unannounced, and told her she was about to become pregnant with the Messiah. That was an interruption that changed human history. Your interruption on Thursday might look like a flat tire that causes you to meet someone at the repair shop who needs to hear your testimony. It might look like a delayed doctor's appointment that puts you in the waiting room at the exact moment someone else walks in who's been praying for a sign. It might look like a wrong number phone call that turns into a divine conversation. Pay attention to what feels like inconvenience. That's where God is hiding your miracle. Let me paint you a picture that will help you understand what's really happening. Thursday is a key sliding into the lock of your destiny. You've been carrying this key your whole life. Your experiences, your wisdom, your scars, your survival, but you've never known which door it opens. Tomorrow, heaven is aligning the lock with your key. But if you're too busy forcing your own agenda, if you're too distracted by what you think should happen, you'll walk right past the door God is opening. If you're ready to receive Thursday's shift, if you're ready to be still, speak your readiness and pay attention to divine interruptions. Drop in the comments right now, "I'm ready for the awakening." Let heaven see your yes before the sun rises tomorrow. Because here's what I need you to understand. The very atmosphere around you will begin to respond when you align yourself with Thursday's purpose. This isn't mystical nonsense. This is biblical reality. When Peter stepped out of the boat, the water responded to his faith. When Joshua spoke to the sun, creation obeyed. When Elijah prayed, the heavens opened after 3 years of drought. You are about to discover that when you align with God's timing, even the invisible realm shifts to accommodate your obedience. But the question that will haunt you if you ignore this is simple. What if Thursday was the day everything could have changed? Listen to me, beloved. I need you to stop for just a moment and look at your hands. Really look at them. Those hands have held dying loved ones. Those hands have wiped tears no one else saw you cry. Those hands have signed documents you never wanted to sign. Divorce papers, bankruptcy filings, medical consent forms that made your soul scream. Those hands have buried dreams, buried spouses, buried children who should have buried you. And yet, those hands are still here. Still warm, still capable of holding this phone, this moment, this message that heaven orchestrated just for you. Do you understand what that means? You have survived things that would have destroyed lesser souls. You have walked through fires that cremated people half your age. You have endured decades of disappointment, betrayal, loss, and pain that should have killed your faith but didn't. Why? Why are you still here when so many others gave up? Why are you still believing when the evidence screamed at you to quit? Why does your heart still beat with hope when logic says you should be bitter? Because heaven didn't keep you here to fade into the background. Heaven kept you here to ignite. You see, the enemy has been whispering the same lie in your ear for years. Your time has passed. Your best days are behind you. You're too old, too tired, too broken to matter anymore. And every gray hair, every ache in your bones, every closed door seemed to confirm that whisper. But what if I told you that every single word of that was a strategic deception? What if the reason the enemy worked so hard to convince you that you're finished is because he knows, he absolutely knows that you're just getting started? Proverbs 16:31 declares, "Gray hair is a crown of glory. It is gained in a righteous life." Not a sign of decline, a crown of glory. Every wrinkle on your face is a line of wisdom. Every scar on your heart is a medal of honor. Every year you've lived is another layer of authority the younger generation doesn't have and can't fake. You think Thursday is coming to judge you, to measure whether you're worthy. No, beloved. Thursday is coming to invite you, to call you out of hiding, to activate what has been dormant in you for decades while heaven was preparing the world to receive what only you can give. But here's what breaks my heart, and I need you to hear this with every fiber of your being. You've been looking backward, mourning what you've lost, grieving over roads not taken, crying over the life you thought you'd have by now. And while you've been staring at your past, God has been preparing your future. Your best days were not behind you. They were hidden ahead of you. Think about Moses, 80 years old, standing in front of a burning bush, arguing with God about why he couldn't possibly be the deliverer. 80 years of thinking his moment had passed. 80 years of believing the best version of himself died in the Egyptian palace 4 decades earlier. But God said, "Now you're ready." Not when you were young and strong and full of yourself. Now, when you're old enough to know you can't do this alone. When you're humble enough to need me. When you're desperate enough to depend completely on my strength instead of your own. Abraham was 75 when God called him to leave everything. 100 when Isaac was born. Think about that. 100 years old, holding a newborn baby, looking at the impossible made flesh. Every doctor who said it couldn't happen was wrong. Every logical mind that calculated the odds was proven foolish. Because God doesn't operate on human timelines. He operates on divine appointments. And Thursday, beloved, Thursday is your divine appointment. Remember what I told you at the beginning. I said Thursday is not a day, Thursday is a door. A threshold between what was and what will be. A portal between the life you've been tolerating and the life you were designed to dominate. That door is opening. Right now. As I speak these words, as you hear this message, as something in your chest recognizes truth your mind hasn't caught up to, yet the door is swinging wide. But here's the mystery that will wreck you in the most beautiful way possible. You think you've been waiting for breakthrough. You think you've been standing at the door, knocking, begging, pleading for God to finally answer your decades of faithful prayer. But what if breakthrough has been waiting for you? What if the door has been ready to open, but you've been too busy looking backward to step forward? What if everything you've been asking for has been on the other side of your willingness to believe that at 70, at 80, at 90 years old, God is not finished writing your story? You are not waiting for breakthrough, chosen one. Breakthrough is waiting for you on Thursday. And the 7 things I'm about to reveal to you, these aren't just warnings. These are the 7 locks on that door. 7 things that, if you do them tomorrow, will keep the door sealed. But if you avoid them, if you heed this warning, if you walk in obedience to what heaven is showing you right now, that door doesn't just open, it explodes. Are you ready to stop surviving and start reigning? Are you ready to trade your mourning for mantles, your grief for glory, your sunset for sunrise? Because what I'm about to show you next will determine whether Thursday becomes your breakthrough day or just another day you let slip through your aged but anointed fingers. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. Thursday doesn't begin when your alarm clock goes off. Thursday begins in the spiritual realm hours before your eyes open. And if you're not prepared for what's about to happen in those first sacred hours, you'll miss the entire shift. At midnight Wednesday, bleeding into Thursday, heaven begins to breathe differently over your life. The atmosphere changes, angels reposition. Ancient prayers that have been circling your address for decades suddenly descend with force, and your body, dear one, your physical body knows before your mind catches up. You may feel it in your hands first. A tingling, a warmth spreading through your palms like invisible fire. That's not circulation problems. That's the anointing activating in your fingertips, preparing you to lay hands on situations you've been praying over for years. Or maybe it's your chest, that tightness that feels like grief but tastes like glory. Like your ribcage is too small to contain what's trying to expand inside you. 2 Corinthians 4-7 says, "We carry treasure in earthen vessels, but sometimes that treasure gets so heavy, so powerful, that the vessel strains under the weight of what God is downloading." Some of you will experience vivid dreams Wednesday night. Dreams so real you'll wake up confused about what's memory and what's vision. You'll see faces you haven't thought about in 40 years. You'll hear conversations that never happened, but feel prophetic. You'll walk through rooms that don't exist in this realm, but feel more like home than anywhere you've ever lived. Don't dismiss those dreams. Write them down the second you wake up. Because Jeremiah 33:3 declares, "Call to me, and I will answer you and tell you great and unsearchable things you do not know." Those dreams are God answering prayers you forgot you prayed. But here's what's going to shake some of you to your core. Many of you, and I'm speaking specifically to the intercessors, the prayer warriors, the ones who've carried burdens in secret, many of you will wake up at 3:17 a.m. or 4:04 a.m. on Thursday morning without knowing why. Your eyes will snap open, no alarm, no noise, just sudden, complete alertness. You'll look at the clock and think it's insomnia. You'll get frustrated because you need your sleep. But beloved, that's not sleeplessness, that's alignment. Acts 16:25 tells us that at midnight, Paul and Silas prayed and sang praises, and suddenly there was a great earthquake. Midnight is when heaven moves. The deep hours of the morning are when breakthrough begins. If you've felt this before, if you've woken up at these exact hours and wondered what was happening, comment right now, "I've woken up at these hours." Because you need to understand something. You're not just waking up randomly. You're being joined into the prayer room of the Almighty at the exact moment when the veil between heaven and earth is thinnest. But there's something else that's going to happen in those first hours, and I need you to brace yourself for this. Old regrets are going to resurface. Things you thought you'd dealt with. Mistakes you thought you'd buried. Shame you thought you'd overcome. Wednesday night into Thursday morning, they're coming back up. And you're going to panic. You're going to think, why now? Why is God reminding me of my failures right when I'm supposed to be experiencing breakthrough? But listen to me, this isn't condemnation. This is extraction. God is pulling up the roots of things that have been choking your destiny for decades. Psalm 139:23-24 says, "Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me, and know my anxious thoughts. See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting." Thursday morning is a divine detox. What surfaces is what's ready to leave, but only if you let it go. Here's the tension you're going to feel, and I want you to be ready for it. On one hand, there will be a heavy stillness, a weight pressing down on your spirit like a blanket made of lead. You'll feel slow, dense, like moving through water. That's the old season dying. That's the weight of what you're leaving behind, trying one last time to keep you where you were. But simultaneously, and this is the mystery, you'll feel a glowing expectancy, a lightness underneath the heaviness, a knowing that something magnificent is about to break open. It's like standing in the eye of a hurricane, perfectly still, but surrounded by roaring power. You're going to feel both at the same time, and it's going to confuse you. But Romans 8:22 tells us that all of creation groans as in the pains of childbirth. What you're feeling is labor. The old creation is groaning as it gives birth to the new thing God is doing in your life. Now here's what most believers miss, and this is critical. Thursday doesn't enter your life quietly. Heaven introduces it with a spiritual tremor, not loud enough for the world to hear, but strong enough for the sensitive to feel. You'll know it's happening because Wednesday night you won't be able to settle. You'll feel restless, expectant, like you're waiting for a phone call you can't explain. That restlessness is prophecy, whispering your name. But if you're not careful, if you medicate that feeling with television, with distraction, with busyness, you'll miss the frequency. You'll sleep through the knock on your spirit's door. And by Thursday afternoon, you'll wonder why everyone else seems to be experiencing something you can't feel. The question burning in heaven right now is this: will you stay awake Wednesday night? Not physically, God doesn't need you exhausted, but spiritually. Will you stay alert? Will you pay attention to what's stirring? Will you write down what heaven whispers in the hours when the world is asleep? Because what unfolds in the first hours of Thursday will determine what manifests in the final hours. And if you miss the introduction, you'll struggle with the conclusion. But now we need to talk about something even more urgent. Because knowing Thursday is coming isn't enough. You need to know what will sabotage it. And that's where the 7 warnings become a matter of spiritual life and death. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. What I'm about to reveal will explain every strange thing you've been experiencing this week. The waking up at 3 a.m., the sense that someone's watching you but not in a frightening way, the feeling that the air in your bedroom has changed, grown thicker, more present. You're not losing your mind, you're gaining access. There's a window opening Thursday, a sacred 4-hour portal between 3 a.m. and 7 a.m. when heaven leans closer to earth than it has in decades. Not metaphorically, literally. The veil between the spiritual and natural realm grows so thin during these hours that what you've been praying for in secret is about to answer you out loud. But here's what breaks my heart. Most believers will sleep right through it. They'll hit snooze. They'll roll over. They'll miss the very moment when angels who've been assigned to their breakthrough are standing at attention, waiting for one sign, just one sign that you're awake and ready to receive. Think about Jacob in Genesis 32. He wrestled with an angel all night long, all night. And when dawn was breaking, when that sacred window was closing, the angel said, "Let me go, for the day breaketh." But Jacob understood something profound. He grabbed hold tighter and said, "I will not let thee go, except thou bless me." Jacob knew. He knew that certain blessings only come in certain windows. And if you miss the window, you don't just miss a moment, you miss a season. You see, beloved, there are encounters with God that only happen in the dark hours, when the world is silent, when your phone isn't buzzing, when your grandchildren aren't calling, when it's just you, your beating heart, and the presence of the Almighty hovering over your bed like it did when you were 8 years old and still believed in miracles. Do you remember that feeling? When you were a child and you could sense things adults couldn't. When you just knew that angels were real, that heaven was watching, that you mattered to God in ways you couldn't articulate. That sensitivity didn't die, dear one. It got buried under 70 years of disappointment, under decades of being told to grow up and be realistic. But it never left. And Thursday, in those sacred hours, it's coming back online. Daniel understood this. For 21 days, he prayed and fasted, begging heaven for an answer. 21 days of silence. Can you imagine? But in Daniel 10:12, the angel finally appears and says something that should shake every believer to their core. From the first day that thou didst set thine heart to understand, thy words were heard, and I am come for thy words. From the first day, Daniel. The answer was already in motion. The angel was already dispatched. But there was warfare. There was timing. There was a window that had to open before the breakthrough could manifest. Your prayers haven't been ignored, chosen one. They've been in transit. And Thursday morning, between 3 a.m. and 7 a.m., what's been delayed is about to be delivered. But I need you to understand something that might sound mystical, but is absolutely biblical. You are more spiritually sensitive now than you've ever been in your entire life. The world calls it getting older. They say your sleep patterns are disrupted, that waking at 3 a.m. is insomnia, that feeling watched is paranoia. They're wrong. You're not breaking down, you're breaking through. The closer you get to eternity, the clearer your spiritual vision becomes. Your body may be slowing, but your spirit is accelerating. What looks like weakness to the natural eye is actually supernatural strength being activated. Think about it. Mary, the mother of Jesus, was engaged to Joseph, living a normal life in Nazareth, when suddenly, without warning, she felt a shift. Luke 1 tells us the angel appeared to her, but I believe she sensed him before she saw him. Her spirit recognized that something sacred was about to interrupt her ordinary. That's you right now. Your ordinary is about to be interrupted by the sacred. Picture this. For years, you've been like a lighthouse sitting on a rocky shore, your light spinning in circles, calling out into the darkness, hoping anyone would see you, hoping God would remember you, hoping your prayers would finally reach past the ceiling. But Thursday morning, in that 4-hour window, the lighthouse doesn't just keep spinning. It stops, it turns, and it shines directly on you. Heaven has heard your signal, and now it's answering back with a beam of light so bright, so focused, so personally directed at your life that you'll never doubt again whether God knows your name. Many of you have felt unseen for so long. Your children are busy. Your spouse is gone. Your friends from church don't call anymore. You've become invisible in a world that worships youth and speed and noise. You sit in your living room, and some days you wonder if anyone would even notice if you just disappeared. But Thursday morning corrects that lie with such force that you'll weep when you feel it. Because the angels who protected you when you were 6 years old, the ones who kept you from that car accident when you were 17, the ones who caught you when you almost gave up at 43, those same angels are standing at your bedside again. Not to take you home, to wake you up, to remind you that your assignment isn't finished, to whisper what they've been trying to tell you for months. The door is open. Walk through it. But here's the urgency you need to feel in your chest right now. This 4-hour window won't come again. Not like this. Not with this alignment. Not with this intensity. Which brings me to the question that should be burning in your spirit. If heaven is opening a door Thursday morning, what are the 7 things that could slam it shut before you ever walk through? Listen to me very carefully, chosen one. What I'm about to tell you might save your breakthrough. The enemy knows what's coming on Thursday. He's been watching. He's been waiting. And right now, right this very moment, he's preparing his counterattack. But here's what will shock you. He's not coming with fire and fury. He's coming with whispers and interruptions. You see, Satan doesn't need to destroy you tomorrow. He just needs to distract you. He doesn't need to defeat you. He just needs to delay you by 24 hours. Because if he can get you to stumble over just one of those 7 things, the door closes, the window shuts, and you'll spend the next 6 months wondering what you missed. It won't be thunder crashing through your ceiling. It won't be demons manifesting in your living room. No, beloved, it'll be much more subtle than that. It'll be a thought that slides into your mind like a shadow. It'll be a phone call at exactly the wrong moment. It'll be that familiar feeling creeping up your spine, the one you thought you'd conquered years ago. The enemy's goal tomorrow is not destruction. It's interruption. Let me tell you what he's going to send your way, because I've seen this pattern for 5 decades. I've watched it happen to the faithful again and again, and I'm not going to let it happen to you. First, he'll send emotional flashbacks. You'll be going about your Thursday morning, making your coffee, saying your prayers, and suddenly, bam, a memory you haven't thought about in 30 years will crash into your mind like a freight train. That betrayal from 1987, that loss from 1995, that shame you thought you'd buried. It'll feel so real, so present, so overwhelming that you'll forget you're standing in 2025 and not back in that moment. That's not random, dear one. That's warfare. 2 Corinthians 10:5 tells us to take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. Why? Because the enemy knows that if he can hijack your mind with yesterday's pain, you won't see tomorrow's promise. Second, he'll send sudden discouragement. You know what I'm talking about. You'll wake up feeling heavy, tired, like all the fight has drained out of your bones overnight. You'll look at yourself in the mirror and hear that voice. You're too old. You're too broken. You've missed too many chances. God's done trying with you. Listen to me. Nehemiah 8:10 declares, "The joy of the Lord is your strength." The enemy knows this. That's why he attacks your joy first. Because if he can crush your spirit, he doesn't need to touch your circumstances. You'll sabotage yourself. Third, and this one cuts the deepest, for those of us who've lived 7, 8, 9 decades, he'll send old loneliness roaring back. You've felt it before. That ache in your chest that no grandchild's visit can fill. That emptiness that no phone call can satisfy. That knowing that you're carrying something nobody around you can understand. Thursday morning, that loneliness will feel louder than it's felt in months. But here's what you need to understand. Psalm 68:6 promises us, God sets the lonely in families. That loneliness you feel, it's the shadow cast by the blessing approaching. It's the darkness that always comes before dawn breaks. When the sun rises, shadows stretch long and dark across the ground, but they break the moment light fully arrives. Don't panic. Don't fear. Don't fold. Stay still. You want to know how I know these attacks are coming? Because they always come before breakthrough. Job 1-6 shows us that Satan had to present himself before God's throne before he could touch Job. The enemy doesn't waste ammunition on targets that don't threaten him. The very fact that you're under assault right now is proof, undeniable proof, that you're carrying something that terrifies hell. The enemy doesn't fight what isn't rising. Think about it. When David was just a shepherd boy tending sheep, Saul didn't care about him. But the moment Samuel anointed David as king, the moment that oil touched his head, Saul spent the rest of his life hunting him down. Why? Because anointing attracts opposition. When Daniel was just another Hebrew captive, nobody bothered him. But when he started interpreting dreams, when his wisdom began influencing kingdoms, suddenly he's thrown into a den of lions. The attack came because the authority arrived first. When Peter was just a fisherman mending nets, the devil left him alone. But the moment Jesus said, "You are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church," Satan demanded to sift him like wheat. The warfare intensified because the calling was activated. Do you see the pattern? The bigger the attack, the bigger the anointing, the fiercer the opposition, the closer the breakthrough. The louder the enemy screams, the nearer your victory stands. So when that discouragement hits tomorrow morning, when that flashback tries to drown you, when that loneliness wraps around your chest like a vice, I want you to do something radical. I want you to smile, not because you're crazy, but because you know something the enemy hoped you'd forget. He only fights what he fears. And right now, beloved, he fears you. If you've felt sudden discouragement lately, if the enemy's already started his assault, write in the comments right now, "I'm still standing." Let hell see that you're not backing down. Let heaven see that you're ready for what's coming. Because what I'm about to reveal next, the first 3 of those 7 things you must not do tomorrow, will determine whether you walk through that door or watch it close in your face. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. When you wake up Thursday morning, something is going to feel different. Not because the sun rose differently, not because your circumstances changed overnight, but because heaven is depositing something into your spirit that has been held in reserve for decades. You're going to feel a peace that makes absolutely no sense. Your bills haven't changed. Your health situation is the same. Your family drama is still there. But something inside you will be settled, rooted, anchored in a way you haven't felt since you were young enough to believe God still did miracles. That's not positive thinking, beloved. That's prophetic repositioning. Here's what's going to happen that will shake you to your core. Thursday morning, you're going to wake up, and for the first time in years, maybe decades, your mind will be clear. Not foggy, not racing, not replaying every regret from 1987. Clear, like someone took an eraser to the chalkboard of your thoughts and wrote one sentence, "You are mine, and I am with you." Isaiah 43:1 declares it with thunderous authority. "I have called you by name. You are mine. Not you were mine. Not you will be mine. You are mine." Present tense, active, alive. And Thursday is when that truth stops being a verse you've heard 1,000 times and becomes the beat of your own heart. But here's where it gets supernatural. Some of you are carrying memories that have poisoned you for 40, 50, 60 years. That betrayal in 1978, that loss in 1992, that moment when someone you loved looked you in the eye and chose someone else. You've tried to forgive, you've tried to forget, you've prayed about it until your knees wore grooves in the floor. Thursday morning, that memory is going to lose its grip, not because you suddenly became stronger, but because God is performing spiritual surgery while you sleep. He's reaching into the filing cabinet of your soul and removing the venom from what tried to kill you. Joel 2:25 promises, "I will restore to you the years that the locust has eaten." The years, not just the moments, not just the days, the years. Every season you thought was wasted. Every decade you believed was stolen. God is about to show you that nothing was lost, it was all investment. Compound interest on your faithfulness is about to pay dividends. This is the moment your future begins rewiring your past. This is the moment your wounds stop being scars of shame and become certificates of survival. This is the moment your ordinary bedroom, your quiet kitchen, your simple morning routine becomes holy ground where heaven touches earth and whispers your name. Can you feel it already? That stirring in your chest right now. That's not nostalgia. That's not wishful thinking. That's your spirit recognizing the frequency of breakthrough before your mind can process it. God is placing the pen of your story back in your hand. For too long, other people have been writing your narrative. The doctor wrote decline. Society wrote irrelevant. The enemy wrote forgotten. But Thursday morning, you wake up holding your own pen, and the first words you write are, "But God." You become light in a world that forgot how to shine. Not because you try harder, not because you fake it until you make it, but because when God unlocks what He's been building in you, darkness doesn't get a vote anymore. Psalm 91 seals this promise over your life. He will cover you with His feathers, and under His wings you will find refuge. Thursday isn't just a breakthrough day. It's a covering day, a protection day, a divine shelter day when God Himself becomes your hiding place, while He repositions you for public victory. But here's the revelation that's going to wreck you in the most beautiful way. You didn't survive 70, 80, 90 years by accident. You didn't make it through the depression, the wars, the losses, the heartbreaks, the betrayals just to fade quietly into the background now. You survived for Thursday. Every tear was preparation. Every closed door was redirection. Every moment you wanted to quit but didn't was training for this exact moment when heaven says, now. Now is when everything you've carried becomes everything you release. But Thursday's unlocking comes with Thursday's requirement. And what you do in the next 24 hours will determine whether you walk through this door or watch it close from the outside. Listen to me very carefully, chosen one. Thursday is not about what happens to you. Thursday is about what awakens from you. You've been walking through this life thinking you were ordinary, thinking your best years were behind you, thinking God had moved on to younger vessels with more energy, more relevance, more everything you believe you've lost. But what if I told you that every single thing you've been ashamed of, every wrinkle, every slow step, every gray hair, every moment you felt invisible, what if all of that was actually God's fingerprint, proving you are ready for what's coming? Here's the truth they never told you. Thursday is not about events. Thursday is about identity. It's about who you were always meant to become, finally catching up with who you've been pretending to be. You've spent 70, 80, maybe 90 years on this earth, carrying a weight you couldn't name. You raised children who forgot to call. You buried dreams that never got permission to breathe. You stood in rooms full of people and felt completely alone. You survived decades of quiet suffering while the world rushed past you like you were furniture in your own story. And somewhere along the way, you started believing the lie that says your time is over, that your voice doesn't matter anymore, that God uses the young and sets aside the weathered. But beloved, look at Moses. Exodus 7:7 tells us he was 80 years old, 80, when he stood before Pharaoh and declared, "Let my people go," not 79, not in his prime. 80 years of desert wandering, failure, and forgotten dreams. And God said, "Now you're ready." Look at Sarah. Genesis 17:17 says Abraham laughed when God promised him a son because Sarah was 90 years old. 90. The world said her womb was dead. Medical science said impossible. Logic said absurd. But heaven said, "Watch what I do with what the world calls finished." Your age is not a setback, dear one. It is spiritual seniority. It is divine qualification. It is proof that you have been refined long enough, tested thoroughly enough, trusted deeply enough to carry what's coming next. Think about this. Why are you still here? Why didn't God take you home when you buried your spouse? Why are you still breathing when others from your generation have gone on? Because Thursday was written in eternity before you took your first breath, and heaven has been preparing you for this threshold your entire life. Every person who walked away taught you discernment. Every door that slammed shut redirected you toward the right one. Every year of silence was God saying, "Not yet. You're not ready for what I'm about to trust you with." But now the conductor is lifting the baton. Can you feel it? The orchestra of your destiny has been tuning in the background of your disappointments. Every string has been tightened through tension. Every instrument has been positioned through pain. And Thursday is the downbeat. Heaven never forgot you. Thursday is the proof. But here's what's going to shake you to your core. Here's the revelation that changes everything. You've been waiting for something to come to you. A miracle, a breakthrough, a visitation. You've been standing at the window of your life watching the sky, waiting for God to arrive. But beloved, the awakening is not coming to you. The awakening is coming from you. You are not the audience of this divine moment. You are the instrument. You are not waiting for the move of God. You are the move of God that this generation has been crying out for without even knowing it. Revelation 5-8 shows us the elders holding golden bowls full of incense, which are the prayers of God's holy people. Your prayers, every desperate midnight cry, every tear-soaked plea, every moment you whispered, "God, are you still there?" They've been collected, stored. And on Thursday, heaven begins pouring them out as answers. But the answer is not something you receive. The answer is something you become. This is why Thursday terrifies the enemy. This is why there are 7 things you must not do. Because if you step wrong, if you miss the alignment, if you break covenant with this moment, you won't just lose a blessing. You'll miss the entire awakening that was designed to flow through you into everyone you touch. So the question burning in the heavens right now is this: are you ready to stop being the one who waits and become the one who releases? Because what I'm about to show you next will determine whether you walk through Thursday as a spectator or as a warrior. Now listen to me carefully, chosen one, because what I'm about to give you isn't just information, it's activation. You've spent your entire life speaking words that diminished you. Words like "I'm too old and I've missed my chance and God's probably done with me." But tomorrow, Thursday, those words die forever. You see, Proverbs 18:21 declares that death and life are in the power of the tongue. Not might be, not could be, are. Your mouth has been prophesying your limitations for decades, and hell has been taking notes. But heaven is about to teach you a different language. The language of decree, the language of spiritual authority that moves mountains before your feet ever touch them. Here's what breaks my heart about most believers your age. They pray like beggars when God called them to speak like kings. They ask timidly when they should be commanding boldly. They whisper requests when they were designed to thunder decrees. But not you, not anymore, not after Thursday. Moses was 80 years old when he lifted a stick over the Red Sea and the waters obeyed him. 80. He didn't beg the waters to move. He didn't ask permission. He spoke with the authority of someone who finally understood that his words carried the weight of heaven itself. And 2 million people walked through on dry ground because one old man remembered how to decree. So right now, I'm going to give you 3 prophetic decrees, not suggestions, not hopes, decrees. And I need you to say them out loud, yes, right where you're sitting. Your cat might look at you strange. Your spouse might wonder what's happening. Let them wonder. Because something is shifting in the spiritual realm when you open your mouth. First decree and say it with me, slowly, with authority. I reject confusion and accept clarity. Do you understand what you just did? You didn't ask God to maybe think about possibly giving you clarity someday. You rejected confusion like you'd slam a door on a home invader. You accepted clarity like you'd receive a package that's already been delivered. Romans 8:15 says you didn't receive a spirit of fear, but of power. That power is in your mouth right now. Second decree, I release my past and receive what heaven is sending. Every regret, every mistake, every moment you wish you could redo. You just released it. Not tomorrow, not after therapy, right now. Because Isaiah 43:18 commands us to forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. God doesn't ask, He commands, and you just obeyed. Feel that? That lightness in your chest? That's the weight of yesterday falling off your shoulders. Third decree, and this one will activate everything. I walk into Thursday with authority, not fear. Authority, not hope, not wishful thinking. Authority. The same authority Jesus gave you in Luke 10:19, when He said, I have given you authority to trample on snakes and scorpions, and to overcome all the power of the enemy. You're not walking into Thursday as a victim. You're walking in as someone who carries the keys to the kingdom in their pocket. Now write it in the comments. Write these 3 words. I decree it. Not I hope so, or maybe, or we'll see. 3 words. I decree it. Because heaven is watching for agreement. Angels are waiting for assignment. And your words just became the permission slip for miracles. With these words, beloved, you just shifted from expectant to activated. You're no longer waiting for something to happen to you. You're happening to Thursday. But here's what you need to understand about what you just released into the atmosphere. Chosen one, as we reach the end of this sacred moment together, I need you to remember 3 unshakable truths that will anchor your soul as Thursday dawns. First, Thursday is not just another day, it's a divine appointment. The 7 warnings I've given you aren't restrictions, they're protection. They're heaven's way of clearing the path, so you can walk into what's been prepared for you without stumbling over your own habits. Second, the 3 decrees you just spoke aren't empty words, they're spiritual contracts. You rejected confusion, you released your past, you claimed your authority. Those words are already working in realms you cannot see, shifting atmospheres, opening doors, preparing divine encounters. Third, your age is not your disqualification, it's your qualification. Moses at 80, Sarah at 90, Anna at 84. God doesn't retire His generals, He refines them. And you, dear one, you've been refined by fire long enough. Thursday is your commissioning day. But hear me clearly, you are not walking into tomorrow alone. The same God who parted the Red Sea, who made the sun stand still, who raised Jesus from the dead, He's walking with you. He hasn't brought you this far to abandon you now. Romans 8:31 still thunders across eternity. If God is for us, who can be against us? And beyond God's presence you have this community. Look at these comments, feel these prayers, sense these spirits connecting. We are here, we see you, we understand you, and we will stand with you in intercession as Thursday unfolds. So let me ask you one final question that will determine everything. Now that you know what Thursday holds, now that you've been warned and equipped and commissioned, will you walk through this door with faith, or will you let fear convince you to stay where you are? Before you answer, let me pray over you. Close your eyes, put your hand on your heart, and receive these words. Heavenly Father, I place my hand on the shoulder of every person hearing this right now. You know their name. You know their struggle. You know the weight they've carried for too long. Tomorrow, Thursday, they walk into a divine threshold, and I'm asking you to go before them. Make their path straight. Remove every obstacle. Silence every voice of doubt. Surround them with favor like a shield. Let them feel your presence so tangibly that fear has no place to land. Open doors no man can shut. Provide resources they haven't even thought to ask for. Heal what's been broken. Restore what's been stolen. Fulfill every promise you've whispered over their lives. And Father, let them know deep in their bones that they are loved, they are chosen, and they are never, ever alone. In Jesus' mighty name, Amen. Now, share this message with someone who needs to hear it. Comment below and tell us what God spoke to your heart. Ask for prayer, we're here. And if you haven't subscribed, do it now. This isn't just content. This is a movement of awakened souls walking into their destiny together. Thank you for staying until the very end. That tells me everything I need to know about your heart. You're ready. Thursday is waiting. And so is your breakthrough. God bless you mightily, chosen one. Walk in authority.